going on, YouTube? What is going on, Kansas City? And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the Beat of KC. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been absolutely hyped to bring you guys this video, and I had to bring on Michael and Josh to really kind of get through this because obviously we witnessed what happened in the first Chiefs game against the Chargers in Sao Paulo, Brazil. It didn't go the way we obviously wanted it. So I'm really going to dive in, and before I get their thoughts, I'm going to provide you all some stats. And I've really put a lot of time and effort into this because I think it's just a value to what we're trying to see on this field. So bear with me as I get through this, and I promise it'll be worth it. So the Kansas City Chiefs defense has historically been vulnerable against opposing slot wide receivers, a trend that persisted into early 2025. And so in their week 1 loss to the Los Angeles Chargers, the Chiefs allowed 17 receptions on 27 targets for 195 yards to slot-aligned receivers with no touchdowns, but significant volume and efficiency. We're looking at 11.5 yards per reception, which was the average. This performance highlights ongoing issues in the slot where Chargers receivers like Ladd McConkey and even Keenan Allen, both frequent slot players, exploited mismatches for chunk gains and sustained drives. So this vulnerability isn't new. In 2024, opponents targeted the slot at the highest rate in the NFL, 39% of the receiver targets, funneling production underneath against Steve Spagnuolo's blitz-heavy scheme, which often leaves the middle of the field exposed in zone coverage. That year, the Chiefs surrendered an average of roughly 11 receptions for 130 yards and about 1 touchdown per game to slot receivers. Mind you, while the overall defense ranked a top 5 in points allowed, which was 19.2 points per game, the slot was a clear soft spot, especially after injuries forced adjustments in the secondary. So where I'm going with this, the primary culprit has been slot corner Shamari Conner. Ladies and gentlemen, Shamari Conner is a safety, who logged 469 snaps in the slot during the 2024 season, but graded poorly in coverage, noted as really bad by analysts, with frequent bites on play action and lost leverage in the flat. In week 1 of 2025, Conner started in the slot and was torched early, prompting a mid-game switch where Trent McDuffie moved inside and Christian Fulton took the boundary. But even that alignment faltered as Fulton allowed a key 14-yard gain on a 3rd and 15 to Quentin Johnson. The team reverted to Conner, who continued to struggle, underscoring a lack of reliable options. So where I'm going with this as well is McDuffie's an elite, versatile corner, first team All-Pro in 2023, second team in 2024, I believe. Excels in the slot, but has been deployed more outside since L'Jarius Sneed's departure in 2024. Maintain the boundary strength. Analysts suggest permanently shifting McDuffie back inside could unlock the defense, potentially squeezing Conner's snaps or moving him back to safety where his hybrid skills, including blitzing and run support, might fit better. Additions like Fulton, which we signed in free agency for a reason, and rookie Noel Williams, who we drafted, provide depth, but neither have proven dominant in the main man coverage against quick slots. So overall, the Chiefs' coverage slot receivers poorly relative to their defensive reputation. Opponents scheme to attack it with short routes, rubs, and motions, making it favorable matchup for fantasy receivers, and potential liability in the pass-heavy games. If unaddressed, via the scheme tweaks like we saw, McDuffie's repositioning, it could cap the unit's ceiling, especially with pass rush that ranked 18th in sacks, 39th last year, despite a solid 35.7 pressure rate. In 2025, signs point to the persistent of weakness unless personnel, schematic change, yield quick improvements. Whew, that's a mouthful, ladies and gentlemen, but I think it was worth getting through because now I'm going to kick this off to Josh. Josh, just from that right there, I know it's a lot to take in. What are your thoughts on Shamari Conner playing corner, who is naturally a safety?
Yeah, so first of all, shout out to Lucas for bringing the facts to this video. But I think this is great that you're highlighting this because this issue goes back to early 2024 when Jaylen Watson got that injury and he was playing great on the outside. And that's when McDuffie was last playing primarily in the slot. Then when that happened, they had to move guys around and included moving Shamari Conner into the slot corner role and McDuffie to the outside to make up for the loss of Jaylen Watson. And it feels like ever since then, they've been trying to fill that void, but they've been doing it in the completely wrong way now that we're in the 2025 season. You drafted Noel Williams, as you said, Lucas. You brought in Christian Fulton, who I thought was going to be the insurance on the outside to ensure that McDuffie stays in the slot, even if he were to suffer an injury. And they're just not using those guys. And I think it's important that we note that it was just week 1, so maybe this is something that changes. But I also think this is a characteristic of Steve Spagnuolo as a coach, that he falls in love with guys, niche players, makes them play a bigger role than they're really meant for, and then they kind of get exposed, and it takes him forever to make the obvious change. Just like in 2021, when it was clear that Dan Sorensen was absolutely cooked as a player, and it took him weeks to realize it should have been Juan Thornhill back there instead. Because even if you don't love Juan Thornhill, at that point, it was obvious he needed to be in there over Dan Sorensen. And we're approaching similar territory with Chamari Connor, who is just not good in the slot. And when they drafted him out of Virginia Tech, I'm pretty sure, he was a cornerback that was, or safety, I'm sorry, that was meant to cover tight ends. And they don't use him in that way. But it's really unfortunate, because during the beginning of the 2024 season, I thought Chamari Connor was awesome. And I thought he was having a breakout year. He was really good in that Bengals game in early 2024. And ever since they made that move, they just haven't relinquished those responsibilities from him. And it's just making this defense overall worse.
For sure. No, great point. So, Michael, my question to you is, and obviously we went through that, we got Josh's explanation as well. Now, we're getting ready to face an Eagles offense who has A.J. Brown, pretty solid wide receiver, and I believe so, Devonta Smith. They also have Jahan Dotson in the slot. They have Dallas Goedert as their tight end. And by the way, they have probably one of the best, if not the best, running backs in the NFL right now. Well, second potentially best, because Derrick Henry, good Lord, and Saquon Barkley. So my question to you is if you're the defensive coordinator, let's say Steve Spagnuolo is no longer, and it's now Michael Darcy to be the defensive coordinator, how are you aligning this defense to take on an offense that has the potential to just do whatever against this Chiefs defense?
Well, we're going to start by praying and hope that works, because I don't know what you do. I mean, I think that if you go back to that Super Bowl, we like to, well, we try to block that game as far from the memory banks as possible, but Saquon Barkley didn't beat you in that game. It was Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and just the litany of weapons they have on their offense. You didn't even mention John Mechie, the guy that they traded for,
right,
with the Texans. He was just kind of a throwaway player for them. He's a really solid wide receiver. And so they've got a lot of different guys that can hurt you on offense. I mean, if I'm Steve Spagnuolo, you got to put Trent McDuffie back in the slot. You got to stop effing around with that. I don't know why Christian Fulton was on a bit of a snap count early. Maybe he's still coming back from injury, and so that's the explanation, but you got to go with your best. And honestly, have Chamari Connor go back to being a safety that covers tight ends. Let's not act like we did that well against the Chargers. There were so many guys that were wide open, and part of it is because the Chiefs couldn't communicate on defense. That was one of the big things. But they also were just out of place. Put Trent McDuffie back in the slot where he was an all-pro cornerback. Have him there. Put, Christian Fulton on the outside. Have Jalen Watson also on the outside. And I think that you feel better about your defensive back room. The real issue that I see right now, Jaden Hicks, the guy you thought was going to take that next step, I don't know what's going on with him. He has not taken that next step. Brian Cook and Chamari Connor are getting more snaps than him. And I don't know what's going on with that, but maybe the Chiefs' safety room is not as good as we first thought.
Right. I do agree, because I think after really kind of evaluating, McDuffie doesn't do the greatest against tall, thick receivers. We saw him, go against A.J. Brown in the Super Bowl a few times. And how many times, I know one that comes to my mind immediately was that deep ball that he scored on, and I believe it was on McDuffie. I just don't think that that's a good thing to do, is stick McDuffie on the outside on an A.J. Brown. Like, let Watson get on him. Approach it that way. Now, Jahan Dotson, obviously in the last game the Eagles played the Cowboys, he was their leading receiver outside of Dallas Goedert, and that's the slot guy. So that's my question kind of to you, Josh, is to kind of counter what Darcy said. Are you sticking McDuffie on the slot to cover Jahan Dotson, leaving those two potentially out on an island with Watson and Fulton?
Yeah, no, I'm moving him to the slot, just as you said, or you're implying, because that gives you your best chance. And even if it leaves you weaker on the outside, would you rather be, perfectly fine here and maybe a little shaky on the outside, or shaky in both spots? That's kind of what the conversation is. And I'm glad you brought up the fact that in the Super Bowl, those bigger receivers gave us trouble because you saw there was a slight decline in McDuffie's play last year after he moved to the outside. And that's why he kind of fell in All-Pro voting a little bit as well, because the Eagles were not the only team he struggled against. Cortland Sutton absolutely owned that matchup in the regular season. Mac Hollins, the former Bills receiver, scored a touchdown on McDuffie in the AFC Championship game. It was clear that matchup was never made for him. That role was never made for him. He can play the outside from time to time, but he needs to take over that slot full time.
So, Darcy, my final question to you is with that being said, obviously we really highlighted the secondary, and I think that needs to be a highlight moving forward with this defense. It's something that we truly just need to pay attention to as a fan base and really analysts who dissect this football team. So my question to you is, and this is something I talked about in my video, if they are not going to get a pass rush to the quarterback, if they're not going to sack the quarterback the way they should, do you feel that these corners have enough time and have enough capabilities to shut down a team like the Eagles?
No. I mean, and it's not even just our corners aren't good enough. There is not a single corner in the NFL that can be, on a receiver for 7 seconds.
Right.
And so it's all going to start with the pass rush. Can we see something from guys that you're paying a lot of money to? And I think, it all starts with the pass rush. We're talking about the secondary in this video, and they were really bad in that game. But, part of the reason they were really bad is because there was no pressure on Justin Herbert.
Right. No, I think we really covered it well. I think a lot of KC fans kind of need a little bit more of this kind of eye-opening. And they definitely saw the gaping holes, the soft zones that we were playing, really kind of leaving over the middle, the crossing routes, and all that was exposed. So I really think that this kind of needed to be highlighted. So I really appreciate you guys joining this video. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys are concerned with. There has been a lot of comments across all platforms, so I really am truly grateful for the communication because it allows me to get your guys' ideas and make more videos. This was a request, so I really kind of wanted to do that for somebody. So I appreciate that. Before we head out, we do this every single time. Josh, I'm going to start with you. Where can the people find you?
You can find me here on YouTube, channel name Show Me Football. Check out showmefootball.com and then follow me on Twitter at ShowMeFB.
Darcy?
You guys can find me on YouTube at KC Sports Report. You can listen to me on The Zone from 10 to 2 weekdays. And I've got a show hopefully coming at evenings on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
That's sick, man, for real. I can't wait for that. I'll make sure all their information is down below. It'll be heavy weighted down in the comment section. These guys put out a ton of good content, so make sure you guys check them out. And I end every video the exact same way because I truly mean it. Have a good day.